Hey Bougie click. Have you ever wondered why society seems to judge some women more harshly than others for the same behaviors? Today, we're diving into a topic that exposes the racial biases lurking beneath the surface of public opinion, the Madonna-Whore Complex. We'll explore how America's racial algorithm processes the dating lives of Taylor Swift and Lori Harvey differently, despite their similar choices. Join me as we unpack the intersection of race and gender in societal judgments, revealing how racialized stereotypes influence perceptions and treatment of women. Stick around, because this is about more than just celebrity gossip. Let's get into it.
I'ma make you a fan.
The Madonna-Whore Complex: How America's Racial Algorithm Processes Taylor Swift versus Lori Harvey. When Taylor Swift dates multiple men, she's finding herself and creating artistic inspiration. When Lori Harvey does the exact same thing, she's getting passed around and targeting wealth. The math isn't matching, and we all know why. The way society treats women for the same sexual behavior is not only sexist, it is racialized. Two women can make the same choices and walk into two very different verdicts from the court of public opinion, the newsroom, and the justice system. Call it what you want: slut-shaming, moral policing, redemption narratives. Society has a playbook for turning a sexually active woman into a respectable partner. That playbook is not colorblind. What promiscuity really means in society. The word promiscuous carries a heavy load of judgment, far heavier for some women than others. Social scientists define the sexual double standard as treating women more punitively than men for the same sexual behaviors. That in itself is a documented phenomenon. Numerous studies show that women are judged more harshly than men for the same sexual history. But race dramatically alters how that double standard plays out. Research reveals gendered racial stereotypes that frame black and white women very differently. White women are stereotyped as submissive, attractive, feminine, and sexually liberal, meaning they might play. Their sexuality is seen as an expression of liberation, innocence, or emotional youth. Black women, on the other hand, are uniquely stereotyped as promiscuous and aggressive, descriptors not commonly attached to either black people in general or women in general but uniquely applied to black women. Social reality: slut-shaming is intersectional. Slut-shaming is not just a gendered phenomenon, it's racially inflected. Studies that measure sexual shaming show that men's and women's willingness to shame someone differs based on both race and gender of the target. Black and white participants show variation in slut-shaming beliefs, and the interaction of race/sex of the target matters. So, the double standard isn't just women versus men. It's a triple standard influenced by race. Sexual stereotypes are not created equal. Almost every society has a sexual double standard. Men are praised or excused for frequent sex, women are shamed, but this double standard gets racialized in the United States. That means black women and white women are not judged on the same scale, even when their behaviors are the same. Research shows that cultural stereotypes paint white women as feminine, attractive, desirable, and generally respectable, even if assumed to occasionally flirt outside norms, whereas black women are stereotyped as promiscuous, aggressive, and sexually available by default. These aren't just casual generalizations. They're embedded in the social scripts people use when perceiving women's sexuality, and they influence everything from how men talk about women to how women are treated in professional and healthcare settings. The Jezebel archetype and hypersexualization. Black women in U.S. history have been entrenched in the Jezebel stereotype, a trope dating back to slavery portraying black women as immoral, irresistible, and always willing. This stereotype was used historically to justify rape and sexual exploitation under slavery. Today, remnants of that stereotype persist. Black women are often sexualized by default, even when not dressed provocatively or doing anything inherently sexual. In neutral contexts, like professional or fully clothed situations, black women may be objectified more often than white women without needing sexual cues. So, While the stereotype suggests sexual freedom, it is not freedom, it is assumed hypersexuality regardless of actual behavior. That stereotype makes it easier for observers to interpret Black women's sexual behavior as proof of character rather than context, and it makes Black girls and women more vulnerable to victim blaming and exploitation. Scholarly reviews and community reports document how this stereotype increases sexual victimization risk and reduces access to protection. White women, by contrast, are more likely to be slotted into narratives that mix sexual transgression with vulnerability, think fallen woman, tragic heroine, or rebellious individual, narratives that can soften public condemnation and increase sympathy in certain contexts. That difference in narrative framing matters when the public, juries, employers, or social services decide whom to believe and whom to punish. Scholars who study representation and interpersonal perception find that Black women are more likely to be sexually objectified and dehumanized in ways that white women are not. Those patterns are measurable in experiments that hold clothing and context constant yet still find greater sexual objectification of Black targets. The shifting standards model, what that means in real life. Psychological theories like the shifting standards model explain how people unconsciously apply different criteria when judging individuals from different racial groups. Group stereotypes set the baseline for judgment. When behavior deviates from the stereotype, observers respond differently. Applied to sexuality. Black women are implicitly expected to be sexual, even in neutral settings. They are more likely to be objectified or dehumanized without any sexualized cues. White women may be objectified more when they display overt sexuality because it contrasts with the stereotype of purity, prompting harsher judgment only when they break normative expectations. In short, Black women are often sexualized by default, while white women are sexualized when they step outside the good woman script. This creates different social consequences for similar behavior. Media and cultural amplification. Media does not merely reflect bias, it amplifies it. Content analyses and representation studies show that Black women are more likely to be portrayed in hypersexualized ways and are more likely to be depicted as violent or morally suspect compared to white women. These portrayals are not trivia, they shape what audiences expect and what institutions treat as normal. When Black women are consistently shown as sexualized or dangerous, the public is primed to blame them for sexual incidents and to discount their victimhood. How men in society treat promiscuous white women differently from promiscuous Black women. When a white woman is labeled promiscuous, public narratives often include redemption scripts: she was young, she made mistakes, she is vulnerable, or she is a tragic figure who can be rehabilitated into a respectable partner. Men and institutions can therefore treat her as a candidate for marriage or protection after a period of contrition. By contrast, when a Black woman is labeled promiscuous, the label is more likely to be read as evidence of a stable character defect. Media and interpersonal frames that emphasize hypersexuality reduce sympathy and increase blame. That difference affects everything from whether a sexual assault is reported and prosecuted to whether a woman is seen as a suitable partner or parent. Swift's 2023 prologue to 1989, Taylor's version, addressed being slut-shamed, and the internet rallied. She was just dating in her 20s, they cried. Meanwhile, Harvey, who's dated roughly the same number of public figures, gets YouTube videos titled "Gold Digger Exposed." The difference? Swift gets humanized, Harvey gets categorized. Case study: Taylor Swift, the nice girl with a sexual past. Swift's dating life, multiple high-profile relationships with famous men, became a national pastime. Research and media analysis show that coverage of her relationships often focuses less on her artistry and more on her romantic history. Critics in tabloids have treated her like a cautionary tale of how not to behave, using language that trivializes her work and frames her as emotionally reactive. Her song "The Man" explicitly addresses the sexual double standard. She imagines how her life would be treated if she were a man, highlighting how women are judged for behaviors that men are rewarded for. Notice the pattern: even when Swift's behavior is not promiscuous, perceptions of her sexuality become fodder for misogynistic commentary. But because she is white, the narrative around her sex life is usually framed in terms like relatable, emotional, or romantic, rather than degrading her morality. Even harsh critics often stop short of outright dehumanization. In other words, Swift is judged on a gradient of likability, quirky, messy, or overdramatic, instead of being dismissed entirely as immoral or degraded. Case study: Lori Harvey, the black woman in the spotlight. Lori Harvey is a black woman whose publicized dating life is often framed through a different lens. Harvey's relationships, from athletes to musicians, are documented in tabloids and pop culture commentary, but the tone is frequently far less forgiving. Unlike Swift, Harvey rarely gets the benefit of sympathetic framing. Instead, coverage often gravitates toward gossip, sexual speculation, or judgment about her sexual behavior without nuance. There's little in mainstream discourse about Harvey's emotional life or career ambitions, but plenty about what partners she has had and what that means about her character. This aligns with patterns in research showing that black women are more likely to be sexually objectified and linked to stereotypes of hypersexuality regardless of actual behavior. Even when a black woman is merely seen holding hands or displaying normal public affection, gossip culture will often amplify that into sexual availability narratives. A recent news item describing Harvey at Art Basel with a romantic partner focused on her PDA and partying, a far more sensational framing than similar stories about white female celebrities. Language games and agency theft. Pay attention to the verbs. Media coverage reveals everything. Swift explores romance with creative partners. Harvey gets linked to or is seen with wealthy men. Swift writes about her experiences. Harvey moves on to her next victim. One woman has agency, the other is either predator or prey. Never protagonist. Academic research on race-based sexual stereotypes confirms what black women already know. They face what scholars call gendered racism, a special cocktail where racial stereotypes about hypersexuality meet gender-based judgment. The result? Black women's dating lives become public property for dissection while white women's remain personal journeys. The protection differential. When Swift faced criticism, she got think pieces about misogyny. When Harvey faces criticism, she gets more criticism. The same publications that defend Swift's right to date freely publish body counts and relationship timelines for Harvey like she's a crime scene. Here's where class allegedly matters but actually doesn't: both women come from wealth. Swift's father bought into her record label, Harvey's stepfather is Steve Harvey. Yet only one gets accused of social climbing. The algorithm is consistent: whiteness provides context, blackness invites suspicion. The economics of desire. Swift's relationships allegedly boost her $740 million net worth through album sales. Harvey's relationships with men in similar tax brackets get framed as gold digging. The narrative refuses to compute that a woman with her own money might date men with money because, shocking, they run in the same circles. The age double standard. Swift dated John Mayer at 19? She was so young. Harvey dated Future at 23? She should know better by now. The protective bubble of just figuring things out extends well into white women's 30s but expires for black women somewhere around high school graduation. The respectability trap. Here's the cruelest part: even when black women follow every rule of respectability, the game changes. Date one person seriously? Desperate. Date multiple people? Promiscuous. Stay single? Difficult. The only winning move is to reject the game entirely, but that requires confronting how deeply these narratives shape public perception and private opportunity. The redemption arc. Apartheid. Swift can evolve from country sweetheart to pop provocateur to indie folk priestess, each transformation celebrated as artistic growth. Harvey's evolution gets flattened into a single narrative: beautiful woman who dates famous men. One gets a hero's journey, the other gets a police blotter. This isn't about defending or condemning anyone's dating choices. It's about exposing how America's racial operating system processes identical behavior through completely different algorithms. Swift and Harvey aren't just dating, they're revealing how whiteness transforms judgment into understanding while blackness does the opposite. The most insidious part? This double standard doesn't just live in gossip blogs. It shapes how teachers see students, how employers evaluate candidates, how juries assess credibility. The Harvey-Swift differential is a masterclass in how racism doesn't need hoods and burning crosses when it has headlines and hashtags. Differential objectification, black versus white. Based on psychological studies of sexual objectification, black women are more likely to be sexualized or objectified even in non-sexual contexts. Their bodies are often viewed through a sexual lens by default. White women may only be intensely sexualized when they explicitly display sexuality, e.g., scantily clad. That means black women can face constant, baseline sexualization, while white women face intense peaks of judgment when they deviate from sexual modesty. This is not neutral, it changes how the world reacts. Black women might not be punished for being sexually active because sexuality is already assumed, but they also are less likely to receive empathy or moral protection. White women might be singled out and judged more harshly when they behave in ways that violate norms of sexual purity. The type of judgment differs, but the functional result is unequal treatment of women's sexuality by race. Health and healthcare interactions. This bias also shows up in medical contexts. Black women are asked more often about sexual activity and condom use by healthcare providers and are offered testing for sexually transmitted diseases at higher rates than white women. This might look like better care, but it actually reflects assumptions about black women as sexually risk-taking and white women as sexually prudent, again based on stereotypes, not actual behavior. Turning a stigmatized woman into a wife. The mechanics. If you want the blunt mechanics of how society converts a sexually stigmatized woman into a socially acceptable spouse, here are the main levers, applied differently by race. Narrative control. White women are more likely to receive narratives that recast sexual history as youthful error or romantic rebellion. Black women must overcome narratives that tie sexual history to racialized character judgments. Media and social networks decide which narrative sticks. Public repentance and performance. Public displays of remorse, domesticity, and conformity to gender norms are rewarded. For white women, these performances often restore status. For black women, the same performances are scrutinized through racialized expectations and may not erase stigma as effectively. Qualitative studies show black women anticipate and experience this unequal burden. Institutional gatekeeping. Employers, courts, and social services act as gatekeepers. Because black women are more likely to be sexualized and less likely to be believed, they face higher barriers to the kinds of institutional forgiveness that facilitate stable family formation. That is how reputational penalties become material penalties. Consequences backed by research. This is not just moralizing. The research shows concrete effects. Credibility and victimhood. Studies of sexual objectification and stereotype endorsement show that black women are more likely to be sexualized in ways that reduce perceived credibility after victimization. That lowers reporting rates and successful prosecution. Social mobility and family formation. When reputational damage is racialized, it compounds. A white woman who is stigmatized may recover social standing more quickly. A black woman faces a double bind of sexual stigma plus racialized character judgments that can affect employment, custody disputes, and partner selection. Reviews of sexual double standard literature document that these judgments are not uniform across racial groups. Mental health and sexual health outcomes. The literature linking stereotype endorsement to sexual decision-making shows that the psychological burden of being judged by racialized sexual tropes affects sexual health behaviors and access to services. That is a public health problem as much as a social justice problem. What would actually change the dynamic? If the goal is to make the path from stigmatized sexual past to stable partnership less racially biased, the interventions are structural, not merely personal. Change media scripts so that redemption narratives are not racially selective and so that Black women are not persistently hypersexualized. Experimental and content analysis work shows media shapes perception. Train institutions, courts, police, schools about racialized sexual stereotypes so credibility assessments are evidence-based rather than stereotype-driven. Reviews of the double standard literature show situational factors matter and can be changed. Support community-level work that addresses how young people internalize and reproduce sexual double standards across racial lines. Qualitative studies with Black women show stereotype awareness affects behavior and outcomes. Conclusion: promiscuity is policed through a lens that is both sexist and racist. White women and Black women who make the same sexual choices do not start from the same social position. One group benefit from narratives that can humanize or redeem, the other is trapped in centuries-old tropes that justify harsher judgment and worse outcomes. If you care about fairness, you cannot treat this as a moral puzzle about individual choices, you must treat it as a structural problem that demands structural solutions. Society does not treat promiscuity the same way for everyone. Gender matters. Race matters. White women who are sexually active are more likely to be slotted into narratives that allow for redemption and domestication. Black women who are sexually active are more likely to be trapped by historical stereotypes that justify harsher moral judgment and produce worse institutional outcomes. Taylor Swift and Lori Harvey are both successful women with public personal lives, but the cultural narratives surrounding their sexuality are not mirror images. Swift is often placed in the romantic heroine who speaks her truth category, Harvey is more often placed in a sexual spectacle category. That divergence reflects more than media bias, it reflects a systematic racialized sexual hierarchy in society. Both women are wealthy, beautiful, and dating in public. One gets poetry, the other gets pathology. One gets nuance, the other gets numbers. One gets to be complex, the other gets to be a cautionary tale. Until we acknowledge that the difference isn't behavior but melanin, we're just updating the same exhausted software that's been running since 1619. The virgin whore complex didn't disappear, it just got a racial patch that makes it run smoother, faster, and with fewer error messages for those who'd rather not see the code. The real question isn't why Harvey and Swift are treated differently. It's why we pretend not to know. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the racialized double standards that shape our perceptions of women's sexuality. If this conversation resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing to stay updated on future discussions that challenge societal norms and uncover the truths often hidden in plain sight. Let's continue to question, learn, and push for a world where everyone can live free from bias. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, your voice matters in this dialogue. Until next time, take care and keep questioning the narratives around us. What do you think? Are Black women judged more harshly for the same behavior? Let me know in the comments section. Stay bougie. Follow and support me. All links in bio. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Check description for more info. New episodes every day.